Folks, we've gone from Candace Owens to Cuckoo Candace, and now we find ourselves at what I believe to be the final stage, which is Crash Out Candace. There is no way that this woman here is going to recover, at least in the eyes of rational, sane-minded, and humane individuals, human beings. In the eyes of God, you are always redeemable if you turn from your wicked ways. I'm not so sure about that part, but what I know without a shadow of a doubt is that anybody who has any level of humanity left in them, just an iota of fraction, is done with Crash Out Candace. Now, before we get into the video that I guess would do the best job in displaying the level of crash outedness that is taking place right now, I need to get into a video that I believe is even more important than that, which is the real life ramifications and effects that Crash Out Candace is having on real people, more specifically on the youngins. Gen Z and possibly even Gen Alpha is going to be exposed to a multitude of so-called influencers. And the ones they will gravitate to first are going to be those with the largest platforms. Now, Crash Out Candace just so happens to be one of those individuals who has built a massive platform. She's been blessed with that platform, and she has used it in this latter stage of her career. And I'm not saying it's all going to be over tomorrow. I'm not saying she'll ever stop. You know, narcissism has this insatiable need to continue to fulfill itself and aggrandize itself. So if she had 3 followers, she would still be spewing this sort of stuff for those 3 people as long as they feed her what she needs. But unfortunately, she's at a place where she has millions of followers, and more youngins are going to continue to follow suit. They will take what she says as doctrine as opposed to leaning on the word of God. You know, for anybody out there who believes that I'm somebody you need to be following, no. You need to follow your Savior. I'm not the one to follow. I'm just a messenger to direct you back to the source. So anyway, that being said, let's go ahead and get into this first video. I'm watching this for the first time as you are. I just know the context around it, but you know, in the last couple of weeks, I've come across enough of these to know that this is real, right? As much as there are those who are finally opening their eyes, there are many who are still in this deception or even just falling into it as of today. So let's get into it.
All right, hey, to everyone that supports Nick Fuentes, just know, bro, he switched up. APAC paid him 241 grand to support their twisted agenda, bro. APAC is not good, bro. All the politicians you know, they have their APAC guy that's controlling
every single congressman has an APAC guy.
Wake up.
Now, of course, as you can tell, these are obviously the bright stars of tomorrow. These are the young men that you would follow behind, right? Nacho Bros. This looks like a lost episode of the Nelk Boys. You understand me? These are happy dad drinkers. But again, this is influence. It's real.
Every single one. Wake the fuck up, bro. Our government is controlled by Israel and we don't even know, bro. Wake up. Literally. Nobody realizes,
groundbreaking.
Bro, you vote for these people, bro. Your vote's not going to anything.
You're voting for Israel. No matter what you vote for, you're voting for Israel.
You're voting for an actor.
There's no point in even following a political party.
Literally.
That's the truth of it. And George Washington warned about the two-party system ever since the beginning. Right before he died, he was talking about the two-party system.
Young man, spell George Washington. Come on. Now, let me see. How much more do we have of this? I'm going to give it like 10 more seconds, but I'm pretty sure you guys get the gist of this.
Nobody listened. Nobody listened. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now, bro. And you have fucking people, the Charlie Kirk killer, and Trump is blaming on the fucking Democrats for a reason. Wake up. There's a reason.
They're trying to divide us.
There is.
I'm not laughing because it's genuinely funny. I'm laughing probably as a coping mechanism right now. Did you guys hear that last part? So this was one of my first speculations, I guess I would call it, when there started to be this deviation of the narrative of what happened to Charlie. As soon as, formerly known as Cuckoo Candace, now known as CRASHOUT Candace, as soon as the likes of her, Ian Carroll, these sorts of characters started coming out with their revisionist future, not just history, because these things had not passed. There was no real information out about what had happened, only assumptions. So these are people projecting into the future that surely it must be a future Jew who did this. Or more specifically, the Jew of all Jews, right? Netanyahu, that old guy. Immediately I knew that it was going to take away the attention from where this is likely actually coming from. Now, again, this was an assumption on my part until we got more evidence. Now, we could make that assumption based upon what's been taking place just in the last few weeks when it comes to these domestic terror attacks that have been taking place at essentially the hands of leftists. Transformers and all sorts of, Antifa, these leftist ideologues that have been radicalized, and dare I say, some of which demonically possessed, if you were to see some of the evidence that was presented. Now we're taking attention away from a very real imminent threat, and we're placing it on the usual suspect, the number one scapegoat. And not only is that lazy, you know what I mean? Because there's a part of this where it's like, this is just lazy journalism on the surface. But under that is something far more sinister. It is much more dark, and it is demonic at its core. And for those who try to defend CRASHOUT Candace, somebody actually made a video trying to, I don't think it was just debunking. They were calling me a fake Christian because I'm calling out CRASHOUT Candace. And I went on their page real quick and I saw at least 2 videos on Israel, and immediately I knew what I was dealing with. So again, I have genuine sympathy for these individuals. I pity them because the trajectory and the direction that they're going in is a full deviation from their so-called faith in Yeshua, the Messiah, who happens to have come in the form of a Jew. Yeah, I don't wish what's coming upon them on anybody, but I know what my job is. I know my job is to continuously tell the truth, whether it is comfortable, uncomfortable, whether I get ridiculed or not. That part doesn't matter. That's not my business. That's not what I've been signed up for, if you catch what I'm throwing. Me and God have got a contract. You do what you're here to do, period. The old obedience thing. So let's go ahead and get into this video. I know we're already 8 minutes in, but I got time today. So let's get into it.
About 48 hours before Charlie Kirk died, Charlie informed people at Turning Point, as well as Jewish donors and a rabbi, that he had no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause outright. Okay, Charlie was done. He said it explicitly that he refused to be bullied anymore by the Jewish donors. Can you guys answer? Did he express that? Did he also express that he wanted to bring me, Candace Owens, back because he was standing up for himself? And
see, here's the thing. Candace Owens, I love how she speaks in third person. Candace, the CRASHOUT Owens, Conspiracy Candace, now known as CRASHOUT Candace, has created a platform for herself where she never has to bring up any sort of evidence. I don't know if you guys have noticed this sort of trend that's been taking place, but she makes these massive statements. So, first statement, Charlie was at odds with Jewish donors. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, at least thus far into the aftermath of Charlie's assassination, but there have been a few individuals who have come out, those closest to Charlie, whether it was executive producer on the podcast, whether it was, members of the board and things of that nature. People come out with text messages, real, irrefutable evidence. Crash Out Candace doesn't acknowledge any of that. Though every single piece of evidence points in direct contradiction to the words that she is speaking on a daily basis. As a matter of fact, we have a recent letter from Charlie Kirk himself on this exact issue. Now, I'm just going to get into the first couple of sentences here. The first two paragraphs here, and then we will continue with the crash out. So let me go ahead and switch this over. Get myself a little bit out the way. Okay. So, dear Mr. Prime Minister, one of the greatest joys as a Christian is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews in the fight to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. Most recently, I am proud to have taken over Ambassador Huckabee's show. So anybody wondering if this is, recent, we have Ambassador Huckabee, appointed by none other than our president, who was elected in 2024. Just to put that timeline in your minds. Huckabee's show on TBN, where he continually support Israel and the Jewish people. As Mohammedism is spreading into Western societies, it's critical that Jews and Christians stay united in the effort to contain and roll back radical Islam and Sharia law. I regret to report that anti-Israel and anti-Semitic trends are at record levels on social media. These negative sentiments then flow downstream into college campuses. Go figure. You saw the Nacho Boys, the Dollar Tree Nelk Boys. Let's see, downstream into college campuses and even steep into the conservative MAGA movement. My team and I have spent months analyzing these threats and debating ideas that would help you and your country push back against these disturbing developments. Anti-Israel sentiment can undermine American support for Israel. The purpose of this letter is to lay out our concerns and outline potential remedies. Everything written here is from a place of deep love for Israel and the Jewish people. I think it's important to be brutally honest with those you love. In my opinion, Israel is losing the information war and needs a communication intervention. So here is a Charlie who Crash Out Candace is making the not assertion, because you see, she's gone way past the point of we're just asking questions. We're just asking questions. Now it is full blown, irrefutable. This is what happened. Charlie was about to, I guess, at the very last moments, was about to unravel some sort of anti-Israel statement. And he was going to have Candace up there with him. He was about to bring Crash Out Candace onto stage with him after years of having no real relationship. Let me run this back for y'all. I got time today. Let me run this back.
Did he also express that he wanted to bring me, Candace Owens, back because he was standing up for himself? And then did he, just 48 hours later, conveniently catch a bullet?
So this is the same Candace, and yes, I'm going to tie everything into it because character matters. Repetition, habits, personality traits matter. I know some of y'all just like to listen to the soothsaying and you like how she massages your little conspiratorial brains. I get that, dear cult of Candace. But the reality is this. This is the same person who makes bold statements such as, Macron's wife is actually not a woman. Okay. He is also her own brother pretending to be her own sister. And all of it is some sort of intelligence psyop. She gets to say that and put out an 8-series expose with zero irrefutable evidence while making those claims boldly. Do you guys want to know what the basis of that story was? It was on 2 different journalists who were debunked themselves in France, and also a spirit medium. That's right, folks. Miss Christian Candace is consulting the likes of a spirit medium on these issues. Now, obviously not herself likely, but this is the information that she took in. And again, this is the danger of pride. Pride always comes before destruction. Pride always comes before the fall. That is a promise. Your pride will blind you from seeing that maybe, just maybe, you're wrong. Maybe you don't know everything. Maybe everything isn't in your own understanding. Maybe there are things that are beyond your pay grade. Maybe Kash Patel, director of the FBI, has a sliver more information than you do about some of these things. Now, understand that there's been a deep distrust and a mistrust of these institutions. I get that. We've been lied to enough. If you're in a relationship and somebody lied to you 1, 2, 3 times, you're going to suspect that 4, 5, 6 are going to be lies as well. But when we zone in on the persona, this character that is Candace, aka CRASHOUT Candace, you really have to start reading between the lines. You have to first assess the character of the person. Where else have they been deceitful? And again, we've had receipts presented time and time again, people making a multitude of videos, exposés, but yet those who are stuck in the cult of personality. And this is what I say to you. If you consider yourself a Christian and you are so hung up on this woman who all she really does is sell scandal, there's no word in there for you. There's no Jesus in there for you. There's no truth in there for you. It's all slander and gossip and salaciousness. If that's what you are buying into and you're devoted to, then that is your God. These are the facts, folks. And I can still sit here and say, I love her with the sort of love that God calls us to love one another with. But in that love is to tell the truth. In that love is to tell your sister to say, you're all the way off here. You're crashing out. You're cuckoo here. You've lost it. You've compromised yourself. When I say she has sold her soul, I'm not saying she sat there and signed a physical contract. What I'm saying is she sold out her integrity, her morals, her values. If she ever had them to begin with, I don't know. Let us continue.
To the throat before our onstage reunion could happen. It's a yes or a no. Yeah, I'm putting the fire here right at the feet of Turning Point because I am disgusted. I am genuinely disgusted. I am looking around and wondering whether Charlie's entire life was the Truman Show. None of you guys are behaving in the way that you should be behaving.
This whole thing is a charade. Sometimes I sit back and I'm like, how does anybody not see the acting that is taking place here? And it's not good acting. This is like Tubi acting. You know what I mean? This is C-list, Z-list sort of acting. When you got to pretend the emotion, that's sociopathic behavior right there. Pretending emotion. I am disgusted. And you guys notice how Turning Point is the one that is being brought into question, which essentially means Erica Kirk at this point. She is the sitting CEO of Turning Point. So is that who you want, as you stated before? And I made a mistake or a missed take. I stated that it was either Erica or Charlie who had to come out. Essentially, CRASHOUT Candace made a statement where she was not going to stop unless Erica said something or another party. I said wrongfully it was Charlie, but it was actually, she stated she would not stop unless it was Erica Kirk or her own husband, who I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Georgie Porgy over there. I have no idea. He is MIA, he is silent, and either he is embarrassed or he is complicit in all of this. And my assumption is he's complicit because a lot of these same views are shared by him when it comes to the Jews. Let us continue.
Okay. There is no way you are letting these lies fly unless, as I am hearing.
Hearing from who?
Unless it is true.
Tips at CandaceOwens.com. That's what she's hearing. The dude in his grandmama's basement with Cheetos in his belly button is her source.
That there was a big payday that was on the line. And if Charlie radically stated that he was done with Israel, if Charlie said he had no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause because of, and I quote, Jewish donors, the behavior of Jewish donors, if he said that, yes or no, well then, I don't know, maybe some people didn't want to take that risk that he was going to become Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson at Turning Point USA with all of those presences, so much presence across college campuses. Maybe they didn't want to take the chance. And I will say this, you know what? Somewhere Charlie is watching. Okay.
And that's also biblically inaccurate. I'm just going to say that. Again, for a woman who claims to be a Christian, I'm going to hold you to the standard that you claim to hold. That is unbiblical. He is not watching. I know, again, it may sound soothing for some, etc., but he is not. He is in a far, far, far greater place right now in the presence of the Lord. Absence from the body, presence with the Lord. Okay, so I want to draw a little parallel for you guys as far as how this sort of propaganda works and how these narratives are spun. So let's take President Trump, for example, right? There is this overarching story now for those who used to be avid supporters of his on the surface, who are now claiming that he is bought, paid for, that he is a shill of the Israeli government. Go figure. The president of the quote unquote free world, largest, or at least one of, if not the largest GDP in the world, is run by a nation of 9 million people. Yeah. Anyway, there is this claim that President Trump is bought and paid for by Israel. Now, let's go down a list of his donors. 12 donors or major donors, and only one of those top 12 are Jewish. 1 out of 12 are Jewish. Now, this is how you spin a narrative. You focus in on that one. Simple. Or you take the top 25, and I believe it's 3 to 5 of them may be Jewish. 3 to 5. So let's just go with 5. If 5 of the 25 donors are Jewish, whether they be practicing, non-practicing, whether they align with Israel or not, let's just go with that. What you do is you discredit or take your focus off of the 20 and you focus on the 5. Look, everybody. Look at all the Jewish donors. So there may be 5 German donors. There may be 5 Arabic donors, right? Nobody likes to talk about the $1.6 trillion that was offered up by the UAE, or if it's Saudi or the coalition of these Arab nations, the Arab League. Nobody talks about $1.6 trillion being injected into the American economy by Muslim nations. Yet little old Israel is the one who runs us, who wouldn't have that much money to give. Make it make sense for me. So this is the same thing that's being done with Turning Point. Turning Point has a very small, tiny Jewish donation pool. However, it was this alleged donation that was about to come in. And that's where the world of conspiracy theory always lives. It must live in the space of woulda, shoulda, coulda, mighta. And it turns that into factual information, and it discredits the actual facts presented unless they are able to bring credence to the narrative, the assertion, the assumption. And I can't even really say assumption because it's beyond assumption. These are people who say this is the story. There is nothing else. If it doesn't fit with this story, then it cannot be true. They start with the narrative. They start with the conclusion, and they have to end at that conclusion. So the conclusion is it is the Jew, the Jew, the Jew, the Jew, the Jew, the Jew, right? Everything must lead to that. So if it does not, it is discredited, written off. So the thousands of meetings that Charlie had with a multitude of people who were willing to put money in his pocket, evangelical Christians majoritively, these people are out of the question because it must end at the Jew. So Charlie has a back and forth with a man who happens to be a Jew in the finance industry by the name of Bill Ackman. Candace creates an entire narrative in a place she never was, in conversations she never had, that she was never involved in, that Charlie was being pressured by the Jew to, first and foremost, to, I guess, write off Tucker Carlson, which to me sounds like common sense if you really want to bring this MAGA movement into its fullest expression. If you care about the truth and nothing but the truth, I stand behind that. But again, Charlie was a better man than I when it comes to that. He was willing to open his platform to everybody and anybody. But nevertheless, there was a conspiracy theory that Bill Ackman was planning this entire thing in order to manipulate, coerce, and dare I say bully, these are her own words, to bully Charlie into changing his opinions about Israel. So that was the first narrative. The entire thing got debunked. Turns out that according to the text messages between Bill and Charlie, turns out that Charlie had reached out and he was trying to build some sort of relationship with Bill Ackman, and Bill Ackman wanted to build a relationship with him. And essentially, Bill had a get-together at a property in the Hamptons where he invited some of these influencers. And Bill didn't even talk about Israel for more than a few sentences. He was really teaching about finances and things of that nature, economics, etc. His zone of genius, you will call it. So all of this gets spun up to say the Jew invited him to this, and they talked about Israel. He was bullied by the Israeli government, Bibi Netanyahu, right? Is Bibi in the room with you right now? Is he in the room with you right now? Cuckoo, cuckoo. So this leaves us at a precarious place as seemingly rational, sane-minded, humane individuals. This leaves us in a place where we still have a rogue agent running around with these sort of salacious lies, slanders, blood libels. This is blood on your hands. It was bad enough having the lies of genocide and starvation and all this sort of other nonsense that is very mainstream. But she is now making a mainstream idea of Charlie was not taken out by a radical leftist, which is not likely because of conspiracy theory, but it's likely because it's been happening. This is a trend. We have not had a trend of Israelis taking out, conservative Christian Americans. It's just not happening. It's not. And so, again, we're in this place where we have these rogue agents. And there are people who are susceptible. And, I'll say this. There are some who are just plain old. They're just young, naive, just dumb. Just plain old dumb, right? And you can get undumb. You can undumb dumb. But as they say, you can't fix stupid. You can, sometimes you just being, you're being an idiot. You're young. You're all over the place. You want a little bit of acceptance. You want to be on the cutting edge. You want to be a groiper, whatever, right? I get that. But then there's a place where you likely have malice in your own heart. And so she speaks to that part of you. People don't just become these radicals for no reason. There is some level of trauma that is unresolved. There is an opening for evil. They're susceptible to it at some extent. And so if somebody is selling hate, then they latch onto that same hate. That person becomes a representative for them. But for those who have just an inkling, that's why I say all you need is just a window, a little opening of common sense. Dare I say, I keep saying humanity, but I really mean a godly presence in your life at some level and some extent. You will realize the danger of an individual like this and the reality of who this actually is that we're dealing with. As much as we sit over here, haha and kiki, there's a very real threat. The left is easy to point at because their insanity is written all over them, literally. They put on the attire of it. But this is a woman who keeps a cross in the back, pretending as if there are books that she has read in the background. Let's say these are, books of the Bible, whatever it may be. She professes to be a Christian, a conservative, to share the same values as you do. And so you latch on to that, as I did in my younger years or when I was coming out of that quote unquote conservative closet. You find yourself in a place where you are trusting her. You are giving ear. And that's why I say you got to continue to pray for discernment. Discernment is going to be your only saving grace. Of course, your savior, but the discernment that comes from God and God alone to open your eyes even in the deepest of deceit. Again, this is the clinical definition of a wolf in sheep's clothing, the ones we were warned about. I call it a false prophet because she professes the name of Christ, but yes, she does everything in contradiction and opposition of that word. And so, for my folks out there, believers, you know where I'm getting at with that. And for those who are not in that place in their life, it should be evident to you that this is somebody who is using their platform to manipulate. And I'm not going to stand by. Sometimes I may be viewed as, oh, you hating on her, you're obsessed with her, whatever it is. And I say, to be honest with you, it would be much easier for me if I didn't have to get into this. It would. But I'm always called at a heart level to say, you got to continue, because there are kids out there who are looking for some sense of direction and they're going to latch on to somebody like that. It doesn't have to be me or the next person. At the very least, it's got to lead back to God. And this ain't godly. This ain't that. This is Crash Out, Candace. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace.
I've been up for hours, I've been up for days, staring at the ceiling, I've been counting strays, I've been in my feelings, I've been out of mind, I've been getting visions of the other kind, I've been up for weeks, I'm in the count of blessings over count of sheep. I can never be the type to limit when it comes to me. I used to be the pleaser for the